Welcome to race number 5 in the DTMRS, the DTMmovies.com racing series. This week we come to you from Silverstone, usually the home of the British Grand Prix. This week is the home of the 5th race in the DTMRS. This week racing we have Hendricks, VA Races, El Nino, Imei Satsuma, Chris Phil, Cobra DX, and Maximilian. Oh! Already we have action. Right after the first turn, looks like Hendricks, of all people, has went to the side of El Nino, who was in the lead at the time. Let's take a look at the replay, see if we can see what happened. Oh, it looks like, did El Nino go into Hendricks, or did Hendricks go into El Nino? We're going to take another look at this from a different angle to see. Hendricks is coming on the outside, and yeah, he does. Looks like Hendricks was at fault there. It's hard to believe. Oh, and look at this. He goes in, just barely misses Chris Phil as Chris Phil dives to the inside to avoid the carnage on the track. Let's take a look at it from El Nino. He has nowhere to go. He just tapped from behind. He loses all control. And look at that. Oh, Chris Phil just barely sneaks in there. That could have been a lot worse than it was. Luckily, these drivers in the DTMRS have excellent reflexes, and they were able to avoid the accident up in front of them. Wow, it looks like that's going to put VA Races in the front. He was in 3rd place, but because of that mix-up, VA Races is in the lead. Chris Phil, looks like Maximilian is making a move on Chris Phil. I believe this is for 4th place. Oh, but Maximilian goes wide. Look at that. It looks like he didn't break at all. Let's see if we can take a look at that again. He just taps his brakes, and the rest of the time, He may not be that familiar with this track. Some of these tracks in the DTMRS may be new to these drivers, even though they are world-renowned tracks. Some of these drivers may not have the experience, and Maximilian showed there. He just looks like he wasn't expecting that turn to come up, and he just went into the wall. He doesn't like he hit it that hard, so hopefully he'll still be able to stay in contention. Back on with Hendricks, who once again has to fight his way back up to the front if he can, because as you know, Hendricks in the past few races has had early incidents and has been forced to come up from behind. And look at this. Oh, he was putting a lot of pressure on Chris Phil and Imei Satsuma. Neither one of those guys wanted to give up the spot, and it ended up making both of them go off. Oh, that's what happens when you don't want to give up position so bad you're willing to take yourself out of the race to hold it, and that looks like exactly what happened between Imei Satsuma and Chris Phil. These DTMRS cars all are built to the same spec. They're 500 horsepower with 2,400 pounds minimum weight. Here is Cobra DX, a newcomer to the DTMRS, so coming a little bit late in the game because we only have one more race in the season, but he's doing a pretty good job. Right now he's up in the 2nd place between VA Races and Hendricks, who has moved up to 3rd. Oh, and Hendricks has come around the outside of Cobra DX, a very nice move on both of their parts. Like, Cobra DX decided it wasn't worth get into a mix-up with Hendricks. He just wants to try to hold that position. Hopefully he'll be able to hold on to 3rd, but here's somebody in front who has not made any mistakes so far. VA Races in that DTMmovies.com sponsored Ferrari, far out in the lead. After making it past that first incident in the first turn, he is taken off, but I think I saw Hendricks a little bit farther behind. Hendricks may be catching up. He's already moved up into 2nd place after only, I believe, 1.5 laps after that incident. Here back in 4th place, we have El Nino, and behind him is the Imei Satsuma. These two guys are driving exceptionally well, being in the middle of the pack. They are proving that even if you are in the middle, you still got to fight for those points. They're driving just as hard as if they were in the front of the pack. El Nino, of course, driving that supercharged Volkswagen GTI. Behind him, and another Volkswagen GTI, Imei Satsuma. It looks like he has finally been able to tame all 500 horsepower of that Volkswagen, because in the past, Satsuma has had a lot of trouble keeping that thing on the track, but he is doing extremely well this race. Here's Cobra DX, looks like he's slowly falling a little bit farther behind. Chris Phil has him in his sights. I don't know if Chris Phil's going to be able to get around him, but it looks like he's gonna try pretty hard because he's coming up on him fast. Chris Phil came back after a short hiatus in the DTM race. He came back last race, did very well. It looks like he's trying to improve upon that now. He's coming around the inside of Cobra DX. Is he going to be able to make this pass? He's on the inside. Cobra DX powers through it. Oh, but he misses the breaking point. Oh, see, that's experience once again rearing his head. Cobra DX did not want to give up that position, so he just kept his foot down. That's not the right thing to do in that position. Chris Field knew what was coming up. He's just put the pressure on, and the pressure got to Cobra DX, and next thing you know, he's off the track. Here's somebody who isn't under a whole lot of pressure. VA Races up front, DTMmovies.com Ferrari. Hendricks is getting closer, though. Looks like Hendricks is going to be making a move on him pretty soon if he keeps up like this. He is putting in a little bit slightly faster lap times than VA Races, so he has moved his way back up. That incident did not damage his car very much that he had at the beginning of the race, and he's going to be giving it his all to try to take the win in this race. Hendricks is the current points leader in the DTMRS Championship Series. He's won a lot of races, and he's going to try to add another one to his another notch on his belt, so to say. Let's take a look at the rankings. We have VA Races currently in first place. Hendricks is in second place. Maximilian quietly but steadily in third place. Chris Phil, fourth place. El Nino and Imade Satsuma, fifth and sixth. And Cobra DX rounds out in seventh place. Maximilian has been driving a very quiet race except for that off that he had in the beginning. Other than that, he's just been slowly and steadily going around the course trying to make as few mistakes as possible after that first one. After that first mistake he made, and he's doing quite well for him. He's up in third place. We have Imade Satsuma coming up behind. I believe he's coming up behind El Nino. El Nino's still ahead of him. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to get past El Nino, because El Nino drives a very conservative race, and if he drives too conservative, I believe Imade Satsuma will be able to get around him. But here's somebody who's not driving conservative at all. Look at this. Hendricks is taking it to VA Races in the worst way possible. Look at this. On his bumper, these guys will go around these turns 120 miles an hour. Hendricks is just beating that Subaru, trying to get every ounce of speed out of it around that corner, catching up behind VA Races. But that Ferrari that VA Races is driving is just powering through the straights. I don't think that Hendricks is going to be able to catch him on the straight. Hendricks, that Subaru is four-wheel drive, so looks like on the corners he's probably going to be able to catch up. But the power that VA Races has in that Ferrari may be enough to keep him out ahead. VA Races has been the perennial second place to Hendricks, and I don't think he wants to repeat that placing again, so he's going to be giving it his all to try to stay in front of Hendricks, and he's doing a very good job of it. Look at VA Races trying to find the fastest way around the track, but at the same time he can't. If he's drives the perfect line, Hendricks is going to be able to exploit that and take him on the inside or the outside whenever VA Races has to slow down. So he has to drive an offensive and a defensive race at the same time. A lot must be going through the head of VA Races at this point, because he knows that Hendricks is breathing down his neck, and the slightest mistake, Hendricks is going to pounce. Because he's already moved up from last place all the way back in the second, and you know that he's not going to let one. Oh, here he makes his move. Hendricks goes around the outside. VA Races got a little bit loose there. Oh, but the VA Races comes back on the outside. This is an incredible race, ladies and gentlemen. I cannot believe. Look at these side by side go around this turn. VA Races not giving up anything to Hendricks. Hendricks is not giving up anything to VA Races. On the inside of VA Races is going to try to make it. No, Hendricks is currently in the lead. Hendricks took away. No, VA Races takes back the lead. This is an incredible race. And Hendricks dives into the pit. Hendricks dives into the pit at a very last second. That was an incredible move. All the strategy that must be going through Hendricks' mind at this point. He knows that VA Races is going to do everything possible to keep him from getting in front. and Hendricks wants to put some space between him and VA Races, so he decided to dive into the pits at the last second. Oh, I think Hendricks believes that he is faster than VA Races. He was pulling faster lap times. If he's able to get some clear sailing, he may be able to make up the time in the pits on VA Races. Here comes Hendricks out of the pits. VA Races is going to have to pit sometime during this race because in DTMRS you have to make at least one pit stop during the race. Hendricks knows that. VA Races knows that. So when VA Races makes his pit stop, he's going to be hoping that Hendricks wasn't able to make up the time. But that was an incredible last section there. Hendricks almost got around him. Looks like at the last second he decided it wasn't going to happen and decided to go into the pits. Oh, that was an incredible move. We'll see if it pays off because here's the thing. Now that Hendricks went in early, he came out in the middle of traffic. So now he has to make sure that he doesn't get held up by this other traffic, by these guys in midfield who were themselves driving a very aggressive race trying to get every last championship point in the DTMRS. So he doesn't want to mix it up with those guys. At the same time, he has to drive an extremely fast lap to try to make it out in front of VA Races. Oh, it's going to be exciting to see if he's able to pull this off. Here's Cobra DX, currently not in the race for the lead, but he is doing a good job of staying out of the way of the leaders and those people that are fighting for position. The DTMRS, it will make a good driver better, and it'll make a bad driver good and a good driver better. Here comes VA Races into the pits. Now it's going to be interesting to see if Hendricks is able to make up the time. I believe Hendricks was able to pull a faster lap time because he was pulling consistently faster lap times than VA Races until he got behind him. So let's see if he gets out in front of VA Races and where VA Races comes back out. And look at these two guys. El Nino and Imei Satsuma are still in a pitched battle themselves for, I believe, that they're in the battle for 5th place. They're not willing to give that up at all. And here is Hendricks currently in, believe it or not, 2nd place behind Chris Phil, but Chris Phil goes wide. Since Hendricks came out in the middle of traffic, he came out behind Chris Phil. Chris Phil had the lead there, even though it's just an assumed lead. But Chris Phil was in the lead. He went wide, giving Hendricks back the lead. VA Races came out in 3rd place. He's currently behind. Oh, he was behind Chris Phil, and he taps Chris Phil. Oh, look at that. That's gonna hurt both of their chances. That's incredible. Chris Phil, VA Races was coming very fast out of the pits, trying to make up every second. Chris Phil, I don't know if Chris Phil saw him coming up behind him, but VA Races was coming like a bat out of hell trying to go past him. Chris Phil did not get out of the way in time, or VA Races did not move over, one or the other, but either way, Chris Phil's the one that went sliding out of the way. I don't know how much time VA Races lost or how much damage. Look, Chris Phil, oh, I can only imagine. He must be beside himself in the car. He must be absolutely livid with himself and with VA Races probably, because both of those guys Chris Phil was in 2nd place at the time. And now I believe he's back to 3rd. Probably he might lose that to go down to 4th place. VA Races, he must also be livid because he was making a run for Hendricks. Hendricks had got out just ahead of him, and Chris Phil, Chris Phil was the sandwich, was the meat between the Hendricks and VA Races sandwich, if you will. And VA Races was trying to get around him, but he did it in the worst possible way. I don't know if he's going to be able to recover from that. He's going to have to try to recover from that and catch back up to Chris Phil. Catch back up to Hendricks, but Hendricks was pulling those very fast laps. Oh, this is one of the most exciting races of the season, and here we have. Oh, look at that! We have Maximilian coming out of his pit stop and making the pass on Chris Phil, retaking 3rd place. Chris Phil slowly moving backwards. He was up to 1st and 2nd. Now he's in 4th place. He's decided now's as good a time as any to make that pit stop, taking a few cones along into the pits with him. Oh, Chris Phil, Maximilian, Hendricks, VA Races, El Nino, Imei Satsuma, all these guys are doing an incredible job. Even Cobra DX, the DTMRS, this is one of the most exciting races of the season. El Nino, Imei Satsuma. Imei Satsuma is coming up behind El Nino, trying to catch up to him. And both of these guys took the pit went to the pit stop at almost the exact same time. They came out still close together. Let's see if Imei Satsuma is going to be able to put the pressure on El Nino. I don't know if that's going to be possible because now El Nino is going to try to put the pressure on Chris Phil. Chris Phil, who's slowly moving backwards. El Nino, who's slowly moving forwards, gaining position by position, putting the screws to Chris Phil. Is he going to be able to make it around him? And right behind El Nino, he has to remember that Imei Satsuma is just waiting for him to make a mistake. All of these guys are giving it their best. The DTMRS, this is one of the most exciting races of the season. I can't get over how close these drivers are, how skilled they are, and how much they're showing each other their respect on the raceway. This is an incredible, incredible race. Hendricks is still in the lead. 2 laps to go. VA Race is in second place, coming around the final turn. It looks like he's not being able to catch up. He's holding his ground, but he has to do better than just hold his ground. He's going to have to give all 500 horsepower of that Ferrari, get all of that power to the ground and try to catch up to Hendricks. He's going to have to make some big strides because there are only 2 laps left. Oh, and Chris Phil goes wide. The damage is probably taking its toll on his car, and is El Nino going to be able to, every mistake that Chris Phil makes, El Nino's able to capitalize on it and gets a little bit closer. El Nino is not one to make a lot of mistakes, and Chris Phil, although he is fast, he has shown that he sometimes lets his emotion get ahead of him, and when he starts driving that car, if things aren't going especially well, that car will go into the dirt a lot and allowing people behind him to catch up, and that's what's happening now with El Nino. Checking out the telemetry on Hendricks' car. Look at the tire wear, only 16% after I believe he's been 4 laps on these new tires. That just shows that the setup he has in his car is working extremely well on Silverstone. He has his car set up. Oh, Chris Phil goes wide again. Is this going to be enough to let El Nino come and retake 4th place? Let's see, where's El Nino at in all this? Chris Phil came around that first corner very fast and went way wide. And I think that's going to, here's El Nino. El Nino is putting a lot of pressure on Chris Phil, as you were able to see. I don't know if he's close enough. Oh, Chris Phil slows up a lot, and El Nino overdrives that corner. His back gets loose. Is he going to be able to save it? He's fighting it. Oh, and Imei Satsuma comes underneath El Nino, as El Nino just barely is able to keep it on track. That was a mistake that Imei Satsuma was waiting for, and Imei Satsuma is now taking over 5th place, and Chris Phil is in 4th place, and El Nino is in 6th place. Oh, this is an incredible race. Already we've seen a lot of position changes and a lot of incidents, but still these drivers are giving it their all. Maximilian currently in 3rd place. He is slowly catching up to VA Races. VA Races was driving a very fast race, but Maximilian is even putting in even faster lap times. You have to believe that if it wasn't for that incident that Maximilian had in the beginning where he just, I guess, forgot which way the track turned and went into the wall, if it wasn't for that, he may be up there right beside the VA Races, if not in front of him, because Maximilian's been driving an extremely fast race. Quick timeout to remind everybody that DTMRS is sponsored by DTMmovies.com, the best place to buy the best movies. Over 35,000 DVDs and games in stock, including Blu-ray, HD DVD, Xbox, Wii, Nintendo DS. DTM Movies, buy more movies, pay less money. And here we have Chris Phil coming around. This will be his final lap, along with Imei Satsuma going wide. Oh, that might have been Imei Satsuma's last chance to catch up with Chris Phil, because Chris Phil, here's Hendricks coming around the final set of turns. Here's Chris Phil. Here's Chris Phil coming. Oh fuck. Here's Hendricks coming around the final set of turns. It looks like he will win his. Fucking A. Here's Hendricks coming around the final set of turns. It looks like he will win. Yes, Hendricks wins the DTM RS race at Silverstone. Congratulations to Hendricks. He ran an incredible race. After that incident, he fought his way back from last, again becoming a habit for Hendricks, fighting his way back up through the pack. That incredible strategic move that he did where he dove into the pits past VA Races when VA Races made his pit stop. An incredible piece of race strategy there. Let's take a look at the rundown. We have Hendricks was in first place, VA Races second, Maximilian was in third, drove an incredible race himself. Chris Phil was managed to hang on to fourth place, and Mei Satsuma fought his way to fifth place. El Nino did a very, very good job to get to sixth place, and Cobra DX rounds out the top 7. It's an incredible race. Next week, the final championship race of the DTMRS, the DTMmovies.com racing series, will be held at Nürburgring. 3 laps of the Nürburgring. It will be an incredible race. If this race was the preview of next week's race, I have to just implore you not to mix next week's race at the Nürburgring, the championship for the DTMRS. Be there, please. It's going to be an incredible race.